Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao, Chapter 1039, Chapter Yurush. In the boundless darkness beyond mortal sight, where stars drift like scattered embers and silence reigns supreme, a battle once unfolded that could shake the very pillars of existence. Opposite Ling Han's gaze stood a man who appeared no more than 40 years of age. Yet his presence was anything but ordinary. His upper body was bare, revealing muscles that surged and coiled like ancient dragons beneath his skin. But what truly defied comprehension were the patterns upon him. Divine markings that did not seem carved into flesh, but rather forged from some mysterious metallic substance, gleaming faintly as though they were born from the core of the cosmos itself. And behind him, from his spine erupted more than a dozen vicious spikes, each one extending over half a meter in length. They jutted outward like the fangs of a primordial beast, exuding an aura of savage brutality that made even the void tremble. Around his entire body coiled strands of black chi, dark, heavy, and suffocating. Ling Han's eyes narrowed. That aura, it was unmistakable. Demonic chi. Without question, this man was a supreme elite from the netherworld itself. And facing him was a golden-skinned elder, radiant and imposing, clearly a pinnacle existence of the immortal realm. What unfolded between them was no ordinary clash. It was a war between the supreme forces of two opposing realms, a collision of heavens and abyss. Their battle transcended form. At times, they shrank to the size of ordinary men, exchanging blows that concealed unimaginable force. At other moments, they expanded into colossal titans, their bodies stretching across the cosmos like divine mountains. With a mere motion of an arm, they could seize distant stars and hurl them like weapons, smashing them against one another in explosions that lit up the darkness. Each collision shattered stars into dust. Each strike stirred the very regulations of heaven and earth. The universe itself seemed to scream beneath their might. Ling Han felt his scalp tingle, every hair on his body standing erect as he bore witness to this scene. A single star, an entire celestial body, was reduced to fragments in an instant. The power unleashed was not merely destructive, it was absolute annihilation. Even a heavenly body tier elite would be erased without leaving a trace if caught within such a storm. And yet, to those two beings, this devastation was nothing more than the natural rhythm of their battle. They continued, unshaken, as though destruction itself bowed before them. But even among such titans, victory could not be shared. At last, the netherworld elite faltered. A devastating strike landed upon him, an attack that carried the will of heaven itself. His body was hurled backward, crashing violently into a nearby star, shattering it completely. Fragments of that ruined star clung to him as he was sent streaking into the depths of the universe, trailing ruin in his wake. That single blow obliterated everything. His physical body was shattered beyond recovery. His divine sense was erased entirely. By all logic, by all laws of existence, he was utterly dead. And so he drifted. Across the silent expanse of the cosmos, bound to a fragment of a broken star, he traveled for an unknown span of time. Perhaps years, perhaps eons, until at last he fell. He crashed into a distant planet. The impact reshaped the land itself, carving out an endless ocean where once there had been only plains. That ocean was the Star Sea. At this moment, understanding dawned upon Ling Han like lightning splitting the heavens. So this was the truth. Long ago, two supreme beings had waged war. One had fallen. His corpse, fused with a fragment of a shattered star, had descended upon Joint Peace Planet, giving birth to the Star Sea itself. Yet no one had known. One of those combatants had been a supreme existence from the netherworld. A thought surged through Ling Han's mind. Genesis Tier? But before he could even fully grasp the implication, a torrent of chaotic force surged toward him. It invaded his mind without warning. A killing intent, ancient, savage, and unrelenting, flooded his consciousness. Kill, kill, kill all beings of this realm. This was not a conscious attack, but the lingering will of the fallen netherworld elite. Though he had perished countless ages ago, even a fragment of his shattered will still carried enough power to corrupt all who came into contact with it. Demonic chi surged into Ling Han's heart, attempting to devour his identity, to strip away his humanity, and transform him into a creature of pure slaughter. Ling Han let out a cold snort. If this were the outside world, perhaps he would have been at risk. But here, this was within the Black Tower. The Genesis tier may have once stood at the peak of all existence, but this demon master had died long ago. How much power could truly remain? Drawing upon the authority of the Black Tower, Ling Han resisted. This was not his first encounter with such corruption. Back in the Devil Sky Mystery Realm, he had once withstood the demonic chi of the Asura Demon Emperor. Though that entity paled in comparison to the force before him, Ling Han himself was no longer the same. His strength had grown, and the Black Tower had recovered much of its former might. Was that not enough? With unwavering will, Ling Han began to grind down the invading demonic chi. Bit by bit, he stripped away its madness, its chaos, its bloodthirst. What remained was essence. Pure, refined, and terrifyingly potent, that essence sank into his dantian. At first, it was nothing more than a speck. Then it became a droplet, then a cluster, until finally it formed into a sphere about the size of an egg. Yet within that small form lay boundless power. Ling Han immediately sensed the change. The second great mountain within his mountain river surged with life, growing at an astonishing rate. At this pace, he would reach the middle stage of the medium extreme within a single month, perhaps even approach the late stage, and from there, condense his second great river. Such speed, it defied all logic. In the mountain river tier, each minor breakthrough typically required millennia of accumulation. Only prodigies like Zhao Lun or Sha Yuan, armed with unimaginable resources, could compress that process into a few centuries. And yet Ling Han? At this rate, he might reach the consummate peak within mere years. His heart trembled at the thought. "There is no need to be surprised," came the calm voice of Small Tower. "This is the lifetime essence of a demon master." Ling Han inhaled sharply. Demon master. Even though he had already guessed, the confirmation still struck like thunder. A demon master, an existence equal to the saints of the immortal realm, a being of the Genesis tier. The will and body of the demon master have long since decayed, Small Tower continued. But the Genesis tier is too powerful. Even a fragment of such a being can persist for hundreds of millions of years, influencing this sea. Ling Han nodded slowly. So it was the corpse of the demon master that had shaped this ocean, imbuing it with its terrifying gravity. That gravity was not mere weight. It was the manifestation of regulations. An elite of the Genesis tier could influence the very laws of heaven and earth. Who could possibly remain unaffected? No wonder demonic chi seeped from the pit on Earth's core island. It was all connected to this place. Ling Han turned his focus inward once more. Within his dantian, the final remnants of the essence had condensed into a pitch-black sphere. Its darkness was so absolute that it seemed capable of devouring the soul itself. And from within it, waves of power radiated endlessly, nourishing his body and elevating his cultivation. This process never stopped. At this rate, it would eventually carry him all the way to the Sun-Moon tier. And that was only natural. This was the lifetime essence of a demon master. If anything, it was only because so much time had passed, because so much power had dissipated, that its potential was limited. Otherwise, it might have elevated him even further, to the heavenly body tier, or perhaps even the eternal river tier. A chill ran down Ling Han's spine. Thankfully, the power was being released gradually. Otherwise, his body would have exploded under the strain. Still, unease lingered. To ascend so quickly, such power was terrifying. And now, this sphere of demonic essence rested within him like a silent catastrophe, a force that could erupt at any moment. But Ling Han quickly steadied his thoughts. The true value of this power was not merely its ability to raise his cultivation. It was the comprehension contained within it, the understanding of the regulations of heaven and earth, specifically those of the netherworld. If he reached the appropriate level, he would be able to grasp both the regulations of the immortal realm and those of the netherworld. Such a thing was truly terrifying. Yet, danger lurked within that possibility. The two realms stood opposed, their laws clashing like fire and water. If he failed to reconcile them, the conflict could tear him apart from within, driving him mad, or even killing him outright. Ling Han exhaled slowly. This was not something to worry about now. That was a concern for the Genesis tier. For now, he would set it aside. Instead, a realization brought a faint smile to his lips. If the terrifying gravity of the Star Sea had originated from the Demon Master, and now that he had absorbed its essence, then this sea should no longer be extraordinary. Ha ha, I can leave this place now. A hint of excitement flickered in his eyes. Indeed, my fortune is extraordinary. When I opened the heavens, the blessings of heaven and earth were no empty words. Then, another thought struck him. Within his dantian, the sphere of demonic essence, what he now chose to call the demonic power source, stirred. Threads of demonic chi spread outward. In an instant, his aura transformed. Black gas coiled around his body, swirling like a living shadow. His presence became that of a demon. Linghan grinned. Haha, now I can pass myself off as someone from the netherworld. His eyes gleamed with mischief. Let's see if even the Asura Demon Emperor can spot any flaw. The legend had only just begun. Within the boundless, mysterious expanse of the Black Tower, where heaven and earth seemed to bow to a single will, Linghan beckoned with a casual flick of his finger. Come here, he said calmly, his tone carrying an unshakable authority. The Asura Demon Emperor hurried over at once, his expression brimming with eagerness. The moment he arrived, he bowed deeply and began pouring out words like a cascading river. Yes, Master. O exalted and peerless Master, your brilliance grows ever more radiant with each passing day. Standing before you is like standing beneath the blazing sun itself. Your glory illuminates all realms. Your presence brings hope to the world. Enough, enough. Linghan waved him off impatiently. Stop the nonsense. Just tell me, how do I look right now? As his words fell, Linghan's body stirred with a sinister current. He activated the demonic power source, and in an instant, a dense black shadow surged forth, coiling around him like living darkness. Though his outward appearance remained largely unchanged, the aura that erupted from him transformed utterly. It was deep, ancient, and suffocatingly oppressive. The Asura Demon Emperor froze. His body trembled uncontrollably. Then, with a thud, he collapsed to his knees. Master! His voice quivered, filled with disbelief and terror. The aura before him was beyond anything he had ever encountered in the netherworld. Even the most terrifying overlords he had witnessed paled into insignificance. This was the presence of a demon master. Master. Could it be that you are a supreme being from the netherworld? He stammered, barely able to lift his head. Linghan chuckled faintly. No, I'm still human. I just happen to absorb the power of a demon master. That's all. His gaze sharpened slightly. Tell me, right now, do I resemble the beings of the netherworld? The Asura Demon Emperor shook his head so violently it seemed it might snap off. Not at all, Master. Your essence surpasses theirs by countless folds. You are far more noble, far more supreme. He crawled forward eagerly, eyes glistening. Oh, great Master, please allow this humble Asura to embrace your leg. Get lost. Linghan kicked him aside without hesitation. Do you think acting cute works just because you're in a wolf's body? With a casual wave, he flung the Asura Demon Emperor far into a distant corner of the Black Tower, where the latter disappeared like a pitiful speck. Linghan turned his attention elsewhere. With a thought, the jade box floated into his grasp once more. This jade box, it was no ordinary artifact. Even heavenly body tier elites had been unable to open it. Outside the Black Tower, even Linghan himself would have been helpless before it. But here? Here, he was sovereign. He studied the box carefully. It appeared seamless. No joints, no hinges, no openings. It was as if it had been formed naturally from a single piece of jade. Only its shape suggested that it was meant to be a container. Linghan frowned slightly. He could not sense anything within. No seams? Then I'll just break it open. He raised his hand, fingers straightening like a blade. Instantly, the infinite might of the Black Tower surged into him. At that moment, he felt as though he held dominion over all creation. Open, he murmured. Pah! The jade split cleanly apart beneath his touch, revealing its hollow interior. Inside, there was only a single sheet of silver paper. Linghan reached out to take it. Shoo! A flash of sword light burst forth without warning, slicing toward him with terrifying speed. It was swift as lightning, impossible to evade. Ding! At the critical moment, the small tower appeared, intercepting the attack effortlessly. It spoke in a lazy tone. What kind of sins have you committed? Why is it that wherever you go, something tries to kill you? Linghan snorted. Will it kill you to stop mocking me for once? Yet even as he spoke, his eyes sharpened. That sword strike had been absurdly fast. The only reason it had seemed avoidable was because he hadn't drawn upon the Black Tower's power. After all, who would suspect a mere sheet of paper? A thought flickered in his mind. Could this be a decree left behind by some supreme existence? This time, Ling Han did not act carelessly. He summoned the full power of the Black Tower around himself, cloaking his body in an invisible yet absolute defense. Now, unless a Genesis tier cultivator personally intervened, nothing could threaten him. He reached out once more. Shoo! Another sword light erupted, faster than before. So fast! Ling Han's pupils contracted. Even with preparation, the speed stunned him. It was faster than his annihilating Dragon Star arrow, so fast it defied reason. Weng! Yet the sword light halted abruptly the moment it neared his body. Within the Black Tower, Ling Han was absolute. No matter how terrifying the attack, it could not harm him. Excitement surged through his chest. What exactly is this thing? He muttered. How can it be so domineering? This was no ordinary treasure. No wonder two heavenly body tier elites had fought over it. He slowly unfolded the silver paper. At that instant, countless sword lights erupted. It was as if millions upon millions of blades surged forth simultaneously, forming an overwhelming tide that flooded toward him. The sheer density of sword chi created a radiant wall of light, sealing off everything before him. Humph, Ling Han snorted softly. Disappear! With a single command, the sword lights began to collapse, one after another, like waves retreating from the shore. Their overwhelming might dissolved into nothingness. Ling Han exhaled slowly, his heart filled with satisfaction. This feeling of absolute control. If only he could manifest the Black Tower in the outside world. If he could drag enemies inside and suppress them here. Even Empress Luan Xing or the Emperor of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire would have no choice but to bow before him. At last, the silver paper fell silent. No more sword light emerged. Ling Han glanced down. It was blank. Completely blank. This makes no sense. So many layers of protection for a sheet of empty paper? Impossible. He narrowed his eyes, then extended his divine sense into the paper. In an instant, a torrent of information flooded his mind like a raging storm. Endless knowledge surged, collided, and condensed, until finally, only 4 words remained. 4-form sword technique. Ling Han's breathing slowed as realization dawned. This paper had been left behind by an ancient, peerless expert, a master of the sword Dao known throughout history as the invincible sword saint. The title saint signified a Genesis tier existence. Yet even among such beings, few dared claim titles like Sword Saint or Saber Saint. Such titles implied absolute supremacy in a field and invited endless challenges from all who sought to prove otherwise. But the invincible Sword Saint had not named himself. The world had named him. Not only Sword Saint, but invincible. A title acknowledged by all. He was, without doubt, one of the greatest sword Dao cultivators to ever exist, and his ultimate creation was the 4-form sword technique. Fast, slow, chaotic, calm. 4 aspects, 4 paths of the sword. What Ling Han now possessed was the fast technique. He closed his eyes briefly, absorbing its essence. When he opened them again, they shimmered with awe. As expected of a Genesis tier technique, this was no ordinary sword art. It demanded a terrifying requirement, a body strong enough to withstand the breaking of regulations. The fast technique pursued speed beyond limits. It shattered the constraints of cultivation realms, forcing the body to transcend its own boundaries. Without a sufficiently powerful physique, the wielder would be destroyed before even mastering it. Ling Han's lips curved into a faint smile. This suits me perfectly. His physique had always surpassed his cultivation level. That meant he could wield this technique more freely than others, even potentially surpassing the invincible sword saint himself when comparing at equal realms. However, he frowned slightly. The invincible sword saint had only perfected this technique after reaching the Genesis tier. Its deepest truths were tied to those higher regulations. With his current cultivation, he might not fully grasp its true essence. Ling Han shook his head lightly. No matter. A spark of determination ignited in his eyes. I'll cultivate it first and see where the path leads. After all, it was time his swordsmanship rose to a new level.